Have you ever imagined that the happiest day of your life could turn into the day you lose everything? That's right, you didn't hear that wrong. Kira has spent the last 5 years planning her dream wedding with Darius, but this morning an unsettling feeling she couldn't explain kept her on edge. Everything was perfectly prepared, until one phone call from her soon-to-be mother-in-law changed everything. An old secret, a mistake that can never be undone, and the truth, slowly surfacing, threatening to destroy her entire life. Just one meeting with Ivana, Darius's mother, and nothing will ever be the same again. Does Kira have the courage to face the truth? This story will make you question how far secrets can go, and what revenge really costs. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next tense and shocking chapter. Kira woke up the next morning with her heart pounding, a strange, restless excitement coursing through her. She had spent an entire year preparing for this day, planning every detail to perfection. Yet today an indescribable unease gnawed at her. She rose from bed and looked into the large mirror before her. Reflected back was a woman in a pure white wedding gown, the morning light spilling in and making the dress shimmer beautifully. But in that fleeting moment, its brilliance seemed fragile, as if one small gust of wind could shatter the illusion. Today was the day she would finally become Darius's wife, the man she loved deeply, the one who had stood by her side through 5 long years of ups and downs. But no matter how hard she tried, Kira couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. She sighed and decided to leave her room, but just as she reached for the door, the shrill sound of the phone broke the silence. "Ivana Collins is calling you," her mother, Ruth, called from downstairs. A sudden chill ran down Kira's spine. Ivana, Darius's mother, was a strong, powerful woman, but cold, intimidating, and impossible to read. Just hearing her name was enough to make Kira tense up. Their relationship had always been strained. Ivana never hid her disapproval, nor did she ever try to be warm. Kira knew immediately. This call couldn't mean anything good. She walked downstairs, exchanging a glance with her mother, who frowned slightly. Worry etched across her face. "Don't you feel it, Kira? Everything's too quiet," Ruth murmured. Kira smiled softly, trying to reassure her. "You're just overthinking, Mom. Everything's going to be fine." But deep down, Ruth wasn't convinced. Something in her gut told her it wasn't. In the living room, the phone kept ringing. Kira picked it up and pressed answer. "Kira, it's Ivana," came the cold, emotionless voice on the other end. "We need to talk now, don't make me wait." Kira froze. Her heartbeat quickened. Something was very wrong, and she knew this conversation would change everything. An hour later, Ivana's sleek black car pulled up in front of the house. From the window, Kira watched as the older woman stepped out, dressed in a dark, elegant suit, hair perfectly pinned up, not a strand out of place. Ivana always looked flawless, but today there was something different about her, as if she were carrying a heavy burden she could barely contain. Ruth opened the door with a polite smile, though worry lingered in her eyes. "Ivana, what a surprise. Please come in." Ivana said nothing at first, simply nodded and stepped inside. She followed Kira to the living room, then stopped abruptly, turning to face her with that sharp, unreadable gaze. "We need to talk," Ivana said flatly, as if discussing the weather. A shiver ran down Kira's spine. What is it, Ivana?" she managed to ask, her voice trembling. For a moment, Ivana said nothing, just stared at her, eyes cutting straight through her soul. Then finally she spoke. "I found a diary." Kira's breath caught in her throat. Her stomach dropped. Terence's diary. Ivana's late husband. The man Kira had made a terrible mistake with, one single night 10 years ago. Ivana's voice remained cold, steady, and precise. "That diary tells me everything. About you. About the affair you had with my husband. I know it all." The ground seemed to vanish beneath Kira's feet. Her mind went blank. It couldn't be real, but the truth in Ivana's words was undeniable. For 10 years, Kira had buried that secret deep within her, determined never to speak of it again. But now, standing before Ivana, she knew the past she thought she'd buried was about to destroy everything she loved. Kira stood frozen, the phone heavy in her trembling hand. Ivana's voice on the other end was cold, so cold it made Kira's heart tighten. "Kira, I need to see you. Right now. Don't keep me waiting." Just one short sentence, yet it sent a wave of fear rippling through her chest. Kira was used to Ivana's distant, icy demeanor, but never had she felt this kind of tension, especially not on the day before her wedding. Setting the phone down, she felt her uneasiness grow stronger. She took a deep breath and walked downstairs, trying to stay composed, though every step felt heavier than the last. When she entered the living room, her eyes instinctively turned toward her mother. Ruth, usually the strong, steady one, couldn't hide the worry clouding her face. The sight made Kira's stomach twist. If even her mother felt something was wrong, maybe it really was. "Don't you think it's strange?" Ruth asked quietly. "Everything feels—" "Too quiet." Kira gave a faint smile, trying to sound calm. "You're just nervous, Mom. Everything will be fine." But inside she didn't believe her own words. That gnawing sense of dread wouldn't let go, like a whisper at the back of her mind warning her that everything was about to change. Moments later, as Kira stepped outside, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the house. Ivana was here. She stepped out, poised and immaculate as always. Dark dress, perfectly pinned hair, not a single strand out of place. Ivana carried herself with power, elegance, and an icy grace that filled the air the moment she appeared. But today, there was something different in her eyes. They were cold, yes, but behind that coldness was something heavier, as if she bore a weight too dark to name. Ruth opened the door with a polite smile, though her voice trembled slightly. "Ivana, what a surprise. Please come in." Ivana didn't return the greeting. She simply nodded and stepped inside, her gaze locked on Kira. She didn't need to say anything, and that piercing look alone made Kira feel exposed, stripped bare under its sharpness. "We need to talk," Ivana said flatly. Her tone carried no emotion, but each word hit like ice. A chill ran down Kira's spine. She bit her lip, forcing herself to stay calm. "What is it, Ivana?" she asked, her voice barely steady, part question, part plea. Ivana said nothing at first. She just stared, long enough for the silence to become unbearable. Then finally her voice cut through the room like a blade. "I found a diary." Kira froze. Her blood seemed to stop flowing. "A diary?" she whispered, her throat dry. "Terrence's diary? It couldn't be." Ivana's gaze never wavered. "Terrence wrote everything in it. Everything about you and him. I know it all." Her words hit Kira like a punch to the chest. The air left her lungs. That one mistake, the forbidden night with Terrence, Ivana's late husband, the sin she'd buried for years, was finally unearthed. Kira lowered her head, unable to speak. Guilt and panic washed over her, crushing her from the inside. All she wanted now was to run, to escape the truth clawing its way back to the surface. But deep down she knew there was no escape anymore. She would have to face it, no matter how much it destroyed her. Kira felt like a storm was closing in as she stood in the living room, the phone still trembling in her hand. The chill from Ivana's voice lingered in the air, seeping into her bones. That demand for a private meeting wasn't just unexpected. It carried a weight that made Kira's chest tighten with fear. Why now? Why today? When everything for the wedding was finally perfect. Kira couldn't stop her thoughts from spiraling. What could possibly be waiting for her behind those cold, deliberate words? Moments later, she saw the sleek black car pull up outside. Ivana stepped out, her expression unreadable, her movements deliberate and composed. Each step she took toward the house felt like a warning, heavy, measured, and filled with unspoken power. Kira's stomach twisted tighter with every second. There was something ominous in the air, something dark creeping closer. From across the room, Ruth watched anxiously, her worry plain on her face. "Ivana, what a surprise," she greeted, forcing a polite tone. "Please come in." Ivana gave only a curt nod. No smile, no small talk. Just that piercing, ice-cold stare that seemed to strip away every defense Kira had left. Kira gestured toward the couch, but the atmosphere in the room was suffocating. She could barely breathe as Ivana sat down, eyes locked on her like a hawk. "I found a diary," Ivana said at last, her voice calm but filled with quiet menace. Kira froze, her breath caught in her throat. "The diary belonged to my husband," Ivana continued evenly. "Terrence. I came across it while clearing out some old boxes in the attic. And now I understand that you couldn't hide this forever." Kira's pulse quickened, her vision blurring. She could hear nothing but the pounding of her own heart. "Are you slept with my husband?" "I know everything." The words hit her like a slap across the face, sharp, brutal, and final. 10 years of silence, of guilt buried deep in her soul, shattered in an instant. The secret she thought she had erased was suddenly laid bare. Her face burned with shame. Her throat tightened. No words came out, only the weight of her own mistakes pressing down on her. Kira stood there, speechless and trembling. She couldn't deny it. But how could she live with it, or call off her wedding now? Darius was her future, her one anchor, the man she had built her dreams around. And yet her past was tearing it all apart. What was she supposed to do? Confront the truth, or let Ivina destroy everything she loved? The world around her seemed to collapse piece by piece. Every word from Ivina cut deeper than the last. And in that moment, Kira realized she might not only be losing her wedding, but her entire future. But could she still fight for her love, or was forgiveness already impossible? Don't miss what happens next, because the story is about to reach its most tense and tragic turn yet. Kira felt the world crumbling around her as Ivana's cold, disdainful stare locked onto her like a trap. The entire room seemed to freeze. The only sound left was Kira's uneven breathing, trembling in the suffocating silence. Ivana didn't just want to stop the wedding. She wanted to destroy everything Kira had built with Darius over the past 5 years. "You're not worthy of being my daughter-in-law," Ivana said, her tone slicing through the air like a blade. Each word dripped with contempt. "You broke my family once, and now you think you can join it? So you don't belong here." Every word cut into Kira's heart like a knife. The wedding, the love, the future she had dreamed of, all of it suddenly felt like a cruel illusion. Everything she'd planned, every ounce of hope she'd held on to was collapsing beneath her feet. But she couldn't let Ivana's words destroy her. Darius was everything to her. The man she loved, the man who gave her strength, the one she wanted to share her life with. She couldn't let a mistake from the past erase their future. "You don't get to decide my life," Kira said, her voice trembling but fierce with resolve. "I love Darius, and I won't let the past ruin what we have. This wedding will happen, whether you like it or not." She met Ivana's gaze head-on, the fear in her eyes replaced by defiance. Kira knew she couldn't cancel the wedding. She wouldn't let her past define her. Not now, not ever. Ivana's lips curled into a cold smile, not one of amusement, but of scorn. "You may love Darius," she said sharply, "but you will never be part of this family. You made my husband suffer for years. You don't have the right to stand here. You don't deserve it." The words hit Kira like icy water, shocking her to the core. But she refused to fall apart. She wouldn't let Ivana crush her dreams. No matter how painful the truth was, she would not let it destroy her love for Darius. Ivana's words echoed in her mind. "You slept with my husband. You destroyed my family." Yes, Kira had spent years regretting that one night, that single unforgivable mistake. But facing Ivana's cruelty now, she knew she couldn't let that guilt control her anymore. The past was gone, and she wouldn't let it be used as a weapon to ruin her life. Even through the pain, Kira stood tall. She wouldn't let Ivana's hatred or judgment tear her down. She wouldn't let the past steal her chance at happiness. Taking a deep breath, Kira steadied herself. Darius was the only man she had ever truly loved, and no matter what, she would protect their love. Betrayal could wound, but it couldn't destroy a heart that still believed in love. When she turned to look at Darius, his eyes were filled with worry and heartbreak, but also with faith. Faith in her, in them, and that was enough. Kira took his hand tightly, feeling his strength flow through her. "We'll get married, Darius," she whispered firmly. "And we'll get through this, together." She could feel their love anchoring her, giving her the courage to face whatever came next. Every challenge, every judgment, none of it could break what they had. The tension in the room was still thick, but deep down, Kira knew one thing for sure. She would never let betrayal or the past decide her future. And what about you? Would you have the strength to stand up and fight for the person you love, no matter the cost? Everything was perfect. Guests were laughing. Music flowed softly through the hall, and golden chandeliers sparkled above like stars. It was the kind of wedding people dream of. Beautiful, elegant, unforgettable. No one could have imagined that this fairy tale celebration would end in blood and tragedy. Kira, the radiant bride, stood beside Darius in her flawless white gown, smiling as they walked down the aisle, surrounded by friends, family, and love. It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. But then, everything changed. At the entrance stood a familiar figure, Ivana. The moment Kira's eyes met hers, the room fell silent. The warmth and laughter vanished, replaced by a chilling tension that wrapped around everyone. Ivana didn't come to bless this marriage. She came like a storm, bringing destruction with her. Her cold, unforgiving gaze fixed on Kira. "You have no right to stand here," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "You will never be my daughter-in-law." Before anyone could react, Ivana stepped forward. In her trembling hand gleamed a knife, sharp, cold, and filled with rage. Kira's breath caught in her throat. It couldn't be real. Not here, not now. But before she could move, Ivana lunged. The blade struck. A gasp of horror rippled through the crowd. Screams filled the air. Kira collapsed to the floor, the white of her wedding dress quickly turning crimson. The chandeliers above blurred as her vision dimmed. The music stopped. The world faded into silence. Through the haze, she could barely make out Darius's voice, calling her name, breaking apart with anguish. But she couldn't answer. Her strength was slipping away. Each strike, each moment, tore apart not just her body, but every dream, every hope she had fought to protect. Before the eyes of hundreds, love turned into horror. And Darius, the man she loved, stood frozen, powerless to stop the mother who had just destroyed everything. The perfect wedding became a nightmare. Tears, screams, disbelief. No one could process what they were witnessing. Love, betrayal, and revenge had collided, and in one terrible instant it was all over. Kira would never walk into the future she dreamed of, and Darius would spend the rest of his life haunted by the image of the woman he loved and the mother who took her away. A single act of revenge had shattered every life it touched. So tell us, what do you think of Ivana's actions? Was her vengeance worth the price she paid? Share your thoughts below. The day after Kira's death, Darius could no longer recognize the man staring back at him in the mirror. The loss of his wife had left a wound far too deep to ever heal. But worse than grief was the betrayal that had come from the person he trusted most, his own mother. Ivana, the woman he had respected, admired, and loved, had become the monster who ended his dream, his marriage, and the love of his life. Everything he once believed in, family, loyalty, love, had crumbled beneath his feet like sand washed away by the tide. Standing amidst the ruins of his happiness, Darius was trapped between pain and rage. He couldn't understand. How could his mother do this? Could someone who truly loved him kill the woman he loved, right before his eyes, just to satisfy her own hatred and thirst for revenge? He didn't know who to blame anymore, or whether forgiveness was even possible. His eyes fell on Kira's lifeless body, still in her wedding gown, now stained red. And when he looked at Ivana, all he saw was coldness. No regret, no sorrow, just an eerie calm. "Mom." Darius choked out, his voice breaking. You killed her." Ivana didn't flinch. Her expression was stone. "Yes," she said flatly, "I did. She was a disgrace to this family. This is justice for what Terence suffered. I freed us from her filth." There was no remorse in her tone, no trace of the woman who once held him as a child. In her mind, she had done what was right, what was necessary. Years of pain had hardened her heart until nothing was left but vengeance. She believed she had freed the family from shame, that Kira's death was a form of redemption, a final act of balance for the humiliation she had endured. Even as guests wept and the family fell apart, Ivana stood firm, convinced she had fulfilled her duty. But revenge didn't bring her peace. It only hollowed her out further. The pain didn't vanish, it transformed into cruelty. She felt no guilt, no remorse, only the cold satisfaction of having restored honor at the cost of her son's soul. Darius stood there staring at her, realizing that everything he once loved was gone. Love, family, hope, all of it, destroyed. He didn't know how to move forward, or if he even wanted to. His world had ended with Kira's final breath. In the end, Kira's death wasn't just the end of a love story. It was the death of a family. Darius could never forgive his mother, and Ivana could never undo what she'd done. What remained was only ruin. Ruin born from choices that could never be taken back. The tragedy of Kira and Darius is more than a story of love and loss. It's a warning about vengeance, forgiveness, and the irreversible cost of hatred. When we let revenge consume us, we risk losing everything that truly matters. So what do you think of Ivana's actions? Was her revenge ever worth the price she paid? Share your thoughts below. We want to hear what you think.